Hey everybody. I've tried to record this 4 frickin' times now and something happens every single time. So I'm just going to embrace the awkward, go straight through this, and you got to understand I'm a total amateur. That's just the way it is. I'm not a major recording personality. I don't have a good setup. What I have is 2 cats, a dog, and a lot of background noise. So there you go. My name is Ian Lurie. I am the founder and was CEO of an agency in Seattle called Portent. Still an extremely cool digital agency. I sold the agency in 2017, went out on my own in 2020. I am now doing consulting and stuff like that. In case you're wondering, most people when they sell their agency do not end up buying an island somewhere and retiring forever. I won't say I did terrible, but I'm not wearing a monocle either. So there you go. See, already, just kind of off the cuff, absolutely no polish, nothing. Maybe this will be sort of like a Twitch stream or something. We'll see. I do have 2 cats. Romulus is the director of content. Isis is the chief producer of Hairballs. You will probably see or hear each of them at some point during this. In my last 2 recordings, I stopped because one of them actually pawed at the camera and knocked the camera over or seized the mic and took it away from me. What I want to talk about is the problem of doing SEO training, particularly doing it in-house or for clients at big organizations whose core purpose is not marketing. And, as a consultant, see, you thought I was lying. I'm not lying. Say hi to Romulus. He'll be back. Don't worry. As a consultant, one of the things I most enjoy doing is training. And I often get called in to do training at organizations that don't do marketing. So, I come into the room and I feel all inspired and I figure I'm going to inspire everybody else. He's sniffing at the mic now. I can't handle this. This is truly a shit show. And I come in to talk about all this inspirational stuff, right? And I feel inspiring and I've got my inspiring anecdotes and I start with some kind of self-deprecating jokes. Everybody's laughing and they loosen up. And then I talk about the business case and how important SEO is or marketing is or whatever. Talk about opportunity gap and everyone's on the edge of their seats, at least I think they are. And then I got to get to the tactical stuff and I start talking about title tags and descriptions and structured data and natural language processing. And I go through all this stuff and still people are on the edge of their seats and they look really interested and they're nodding sagely, although they may be looking at their phones. I don't know yet. But it doesn't matter because what they hear is they hear me introducing cost and effort and complexity and risk. I'm bringing all these things to them that they're going to have to do that it's not that they don't want to, it's that it's more stuff, right? It's not core to their job or their purpose. Seriously, he's sniffing at the mic now. Anyway, and at the end of the training, everybody tells me how great it is. And they're probably not lying. They think it was pretty good, I hope. And they say they're going to get right on it. The problem is they don't know what it is, or they know what it is, but they already know that they can't do it. And it may frustrate them. It may not. Whatever. It's just not something that's a priority for them right now. Okay, I'm going to actually keep him from actually chewing on the mic, which is what he's now doing. Here, buddy. You just lie down right there. There you go. And somewhere along the way, and it probably took me 10 or 15 years to get here, which is embarrassing given that I've been doing this for 25 years. But somewhere along the way, I had an epiphany, and that's that expecting all these people to attend a training and get all motivated and take notes and commit to complete execution is just absurd, right? If I went to training, I wouldn't do that. And instead, I started to realize training is marketing. Right? You have to get people, you have to introduce a concept to them, you have to win them over, and then you have to get them to leave the room ready to convert. You need to convert them, and literally and figuratively, right? They have to take the next action. The way to do it is the way you would do any good marketing, right? So audience awareness, great content, and smart delivery. Apparently he wants to get down now, so we're just going to do that. And now he just unplugged my headset. Remember what I said about a shit show? This is amazing. I feel like I should be playing Minecraft or something instead of recording a training. Anyway, I said no pauses, no interruptions, no edits. So I'm going to keep going. Audience awareness, great content, and smart delivery are the things you got to do. And that means providing stuff that your particular specific audience that day is going to want and is going to fit their needs. Deliver content. It doesn't have to be beautiful or gorgeous or award-winning. It has to be effective and informational, sort of like hopefully this will be, because it sure ain't going to be gorgeous or award-winning. And then smart delivery, meaning you have to assume and understand that most people will not consume and memorize your training the day that you present it. You need to enable asynchronous delivery. First, I want to set some expectations because it's easy to take it personally when you deliver training and most people don't pay attention. And you have to understand you're going to invite a certain number of people, right? And some fraction of them will attend. And a much smaller fraction of those will remember and take action. Don't treat this as being ignored. That's not what this is about. This is about people having many priorities or people having cats jumping in their lap or whatever else, right? Instead, treat it like marketing. How many people do you bring to a landing page before one of them converts? How many people do you communicate a call to action to for something else, to vote or whatever, before they take the action, right? If training is marketing, then understand you're going to have that small group of conversions. Treat them as your marketing team. By winning them over, you've got some people who will go out and talk about what you've given to them, right? They will become referrals. They will become fans. They will talk about it. So focus on the fact that you're going to have that small number of converts, and don't worry about the folks who don't. I'm not saying ignore them. I'm just saying they haven't converted yet. That's okay. Focus on these converts. So for starters, you're probably hearing clanging in the background now too. This is amazing. All we need is like a power outage or something, or a jackhammer going next door. So for starters, you got to target your audience. I used to, and I think a lot of people do, have sort of a standard deck, right? It's the 50 or 100 or 200 slides you do for your 1 or 2 or 3 hour training. You may add some, remove some, whatever for different audiences. What you really have to do is create content that truly targets the audience. So you're going to have leadership, you're going to have sort of the creatives and the nerds, and then you're going to have probably specialists in individual disciplines. It may divide up differently, but that's just an example of the 3 audiences. So I created these 3 sort of qualitative data points. Nerdosity, which is how deep you drill into the technology. Examples, which is exactly what it sounds like, and data. Right, proving that it's going to work, showing that past performance will equate to future performance. Of the 3 typical audiences, like I said, they're sort of the other marketers and creative nerds. So if I'm presenting at a company, they're going to have a marketing team. I'm probably going to be doing a training for them. They work at a high level, right? They're extremely good at what they do. I can probably help them get better results, but what I'm telling them is going to impact their day-to-day. It's going to add more stuff, right? It's going to make them do more. For them, they want to get pretty nerdy. They want to learn this stuff. These are people who spend their days, down in the dirt of some kind of technology. Maybe it's Photoshop. Maybe it's, a photo editing program. I don't want Adobe to come yell at me. Maybe it's Word, a content management system, whatever it is. They're nerds one way or another. They need a lot of examples, right? They want to see exactly how this stuff is going to work and how it looks, that they can then carry those examples forward. And they need some data, just enough to tell them, yeah, all right, this will work. So for example, some things that I often will present to those audiences. Title tags are really important. They always have been, they still are. So the assumption there is, you know what a title tag is, you know that they used to be important. I'm confirming that it still is. Don't worry about keyword density. Check out this thing you built before and how much it helped you rank, right? That's another one. Or, sometimes one of the more difficult discussions I have is, yes, I know we sell athletic footwear. Please call them running shoes. I know we sell denim. denim pants. Can we please just call them jeans? I beg of you. Those are examples of the kind of stuff that I would talk to that team about. Developers, specialists, analysts, and technicians, in my experience, these are the toughest audience. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, these are the folks who are most likely to call you on stuff because they know they have a lot of background in it. And they're going to be a hypercritical audience. That is not a bad thing, because if you can explain it to them and win them over, they are converts forever. Nothing will distract them. So creatives, fun to work with, good at what they do. You can show them what to do. They're going to do it and they'll learn stuff. Developers, specialists, analysts, technicians, super particular, really tactical. But if they understand how it works, they're all over it. They need to know it's really going to work. They know it's going to impact their day-to-day, and they know it's going to interact with the technology that they have, or if they don't know, they're going to find out. Obviously, they're very nerdy. They want a lot of examples, and they need about the same amount of data as a creative, but they need a different kind of data. For example, they want to know how Googlebot actually works. They don't need to know more than we do, which is pretty, if you think about it, just on the surface. They need data like, on these other sites, we moved from subdomains to subfolders and traffic went up. And here's a couple of graphs to show you what happened. They need details like, yeah, you know what, JavaScript's a problem. And here's a couple of examples, but just so you know, we don't have to stop using it. We need to mitigate it. And here's some examples of ways you can mitigate it. So the important thing with this audience is not just to come to them with problems and requests, but to present solutions at a technical level. Again, backing up to the creatives, they want solutions too, but you can present examples and they're going to carry them forward. Technicians need examples and solutions, but they need to see a direct connection to the technology, because remember, every day they're working in that technology. It's a little bit different. Management wants to know how SEO can grow the business, what competition is doing, and how much it's going to cost them. And I just got to keep saying this. For each of these audiences, I'm in no way saying one is less smart or less capable than the other, but they all have very different priorities. That's the thing to keep in mind when you're working on this stuff, is you've got to be hyper aware of their priorities. If I'm management, I probably do want to know how search engines work. It's really cool, right? I probably would love tons of examples, but I probably don't have time. So I need to know whether the decision I'm about to make is going to impact the organization, right? There's risk here. Is it worth it to undertake that risk? So just as an example, right now our share of voice for these phrases is X%. If we can improve it by 2%, then we'll gain this many visitors. And maybe I can even then say, since our conversion rate is 5%, these many additional visitors will mean this many more customers. Say something like, last year we made a change and look what happened. Look at how much more traffic we got. Look at how much our share of voice expanded. And then, competitive data is always great, right? Because you say we have a 10% share of voice. Look at our competitors over there. They have 20%. Again, this is not a trick, right? This is just the way that this is their priority, right? They need to beat the competition. They need the overall business to perform. So explain to them that we're not beating the competition yet, and here's how we outperform them. That's all you have to do. Quick tip. People always say we want the advanced version. No, they don't. They don't. Maybe they do, but they have a very different picture of advanced from what we do. I have literally walked into rooms where someone said, oh yeah, we want advanced, and I've shown them the PageRank formula, and within seconds, everybody's just like, they're drooling. And again, it's not because they can't understand it. It's because I've got an hour or 2 hours. They need to understand how this impacts them. So always find out what advanced really means. It's very rare that you're going to actually go in and give a 2-hour presentation on natural language processing. As cool as that would be. Always have a safe word during training. That sounds so wrong, but and I'm serious, it's kind of funny, but you'll be amazed how often it gets used. The story I always tell folks, and you'll hear me say it if I speak somewhere, if you see me speak somewhere, my children have always known that they can say, interesting, if I start to nerd out on something so far that they just don't want to hear it. So I always, when I get up in front of a group, I say, okay, if I get too nerdy here, just say interesting and I'll dial it back. People laugh, but then within a half an hour, somebody says interesting. And I'll look around the room and say, everybody interesting? And they'll say, yeah. And I'll say, okay, let's just dial it back. The next priority, so now you're tailoring it to your audience. The next priority is asynchronous delivery, or your ability to deliver your training all the time. Okay. I always assumed, again, for that first 10 or 15 years, that when I delivered my training, people would look at it right then. And when I sent around an email saying, here's my deck, they would automatically bookmark the deck and it would always be there for them to look at and they would always have it at their fingertips. But people have other priorities. Maybe during the training, your dog starts to chase the cats who beat the crap out of the dog. So the dog starts crying and then the dog goes pees in a corner. So the cats get angry. And then you've got all these animals singing the song of their people in the background. Not that that's ever happened to me, but these are our house animals. Whatever, there's distractions. There's other priorities. You get called out of the room. You get that one email with the link to the deck in it, but then you have to go back and do something else, whatever it might be. You need to ensure people can always access and consume your content. Always. Okay. And when I talk about this, I don't mean fancy schmancy learning management systems. Don't use them. It's not, you don't need it. Okay. And people may say, oh, the folders we're using right now or the ticketing system, I don't like it. I want more features. And that's always going to be half the organization. Well, guess what? You get that commission of 10 people, the committee, and they go out and they do the research and they get formal proposals and they send out RFPs and they put together this great slide deck and management looks at it and nods and they say, okay, we picked this learning management system. And then they install it and set it up, put all the content in, and guess what? Half the company hates it. Might be a different half the company still hates it. Instead, follow a few basic rules, all right? Write your content, organize it, and then ping your audience regularly. So tools I usually use would be, video, documents of some kind, slide decks, whatever, stored on Google Drive, and then ping people using email. For an example of pinging, this is a typical email that I would write. And notice it's got sort of a list of links. It's got updates to training. I solicit questions. I note any updates specifically, and that's important to take a look here. You'll see where it says updated next to some of these. And I organize by audience. I'm usually going to have sort of a standard email template. I might write one email that has all of the links in it, but then before I send it out to my different audiences, I'm going to pull out the really nerdy stuff that the management team doesn't want to see. I'm going to pull out the really management type stuff that the nerds don't want to see, whatever. Then I build a library. I keep it super simple. I'm going to get to more examples of this in a minute, so I'm not going to spend too much time. But I build a library, and it's just, again, it's another list of links. That's all it is. It's just a place where people can go and get access to that training later if they need it in a more organized way than just a random list or sending me a note and saying, hey, where is this or whatever. It's there when they need it. It's in a format they know how to use. It's consumable. That's it. And it's always there. If you're not allowed to use Google Drive, that's just an example. Use whatever tools your organization has. It might be a bunch of folders on a drive somewhere. It could be, it could be a knowledge management system that you already use. It could be Microsoft Teams, whatever. You can just use what you got. If you want to get kind of fancy with a knowledge base, you can use Tetra, which integrates with Slack. The one reason I suggest this as a tool is because so many organizations already use Slack. Tetra will let people query a knowledge base directly from Slack. So just something to try. We had some success with it at Portent when I was there. It might be worth a look. And make sure everything ends up as content. And when I say content, I don't just mean a video or a document. I mean a video with a document, meaning, or audio with a document. So if someone goes into your storage system, whatever it is, and there's a video for them to watch. When they load that video, they also see a transcript of some kind. When they look at that audio, when they go to listen to that audio, there's a transcript. If they load text or a slide deck, there's a video of it, sort of like I'm doing right now. The purpose is to deliver to many different situations and many different styles of consumption. So maybe I'm in my office and or I'm in an open form office, open layout office, open office layout. Yeah, okay, anyway. See, that's something I would edit, but not going to. No edits, embracing the awkward. If I'm in an open office layout and I want to consume training and I don't have my headphones, what am I going to do? I'm going to read it instead, or maybe I need to keep an ear open for something, someone coming to ask me a question. This way I can read it at the same time. Or I'm on my mobile device at an airport and I still want to check out the training. Well, I'm probably not going to watch a video then. I'm just going to go through the transcript. Or I'm driving home and I want to listen to it, right? So this way I can listen to it in my car. Provide as many different ways and as many different documents, as many different document groups as you possibly can. You'll notice, by the way, that that document I just showed you is a video from Martin Splitt. He's a Google engineer. It's not my content, right? I didn't create it. That's okay. You can use other people's content as long as you get permission and follow the rules. I guarantee you, Martin would be thrilled if you went to him and said, hey, can I use one of your videos as training in my organization? Just make sure you get permission, make sure you follow the rules. And then organize it all, right? Any storage will do. So here I've got a slide deck. I've got a PDF, which is, I think, another slide deck. I have a couple of checklists, some docs. If you scroll down further, there's some videos. But of course, the videos are also embedded in the docs. Lots of different ways to get at this content. And you can use subfolders or whatever you need to. But I try to keep it as simple as possible. Notice I have underscore contents. That's literally that document. That's the list of links. The underscore, if you're not as nerdy as me, just make sure it will always show up at the very beginning, at the top of the list of documents. Next is create quality content. Now, I used to put an immense amount of time into creating beautiful content, typesetting and picking the perfect font and doing all these other things. I love doing that, okay? But the truth is, we don't have time, and it is far more important to get content and information in front of our audience, right? So quality here means usable and complete and up to date, right? That's, in fact, here comes my head of content again. Does that meet your approval? He's purring, so I'm going to assume it does meet his approval. So, just complete, usable, up to date. That's really what you need to make sure of here. And it doesn't have to be gorgeous. This training that I'm doing right now, this webinar, is a pretty good example. Hopefully it delivers useful information to you in spite of cattails. And again, I beg of you, okay, and this is different from learning management. This is creative tools. Don't look for new tools for content creation unless you really need them. If you don't have something that serves a specific purpose, sure, by all means, try something new. If you think a different tool will better deliver content that is useful to your audience, definitely make the switch. But don't switch just because you saw it at a conference on training or because you just feel like it's something you should be doing. I feel like a Bond villain right now. I'm here talking to you while I'm petting my cat. So just don't switch tools without a really good justification. And again, I'm a total tools nerd. I love to switch around, try new stuff, but I've just learned you just can't. Use what you've got. Word and Google Docs are great for written content, and you can embed videos and things in them. HTML is also great if your organization is built around HTML. Just remember that's going to increase the amount of time you have to spend in production, probably. And it could potentially limit the ways people can consume it. Look into ways people can consume HTML asynchronously using like progressive web apps and things like that before you make the decision to put all your training into a format where someone has to actually be connected to your network to view and consume it. If you use slides, just thoroughly annotate. You can see here I annotate a lot of my slides. If you don't want to annotate, that's totally okay. Then check out the notes view and make sure you have notes prepared that people can grab. So in Google Slides, in Keynote, in PowerPoint, you can have this view where you see a thumbnail of the slide and then additional text below it. Just use that. Always record in-person training. Doesn't have to be fancy. Just set your phone on the desk in front of you and start recording audio, or, have someone hold up your phone and record the training, whatever, record your screen, whatever you're going to do, just always have a record. You don't have to use it, but it's a lot easier to have it and then work with it later than it is to have to go re-record everything, sort of like I'm doing now. I love ScreenFlow. If I'm doing screen capture like this entire video is done using ScreenFlow. It'll let me capture a screen plus a talking head plus audio. So pretty helpful, really easy to use. I'm hoping that wasn't actually an explosion downstairs. I think it was just something falling. Repurpose video and audio, right? If you have a video or you record audio, transcribe it and then give it a quick edit. Don't just take the verbal blah and just stick it on the page. Grab some images where they would be useful. Grab some frames from the video and just stick them in there where they're helpful. Take a look at Moz's Whiteboard Friday. They're kind of the gold standard for this. Just remember, again, we're not going for gorgeous here, so it's perfectly okay to not have something as polished and fancy as them. Just look at it as an idea, as a place to look and kind of figure out what you might want to do. Always start with the simplest format. If people are happy with the Google Doc, use the Google Doc. That's it. And remember, half your organization will always hate the tool. So just make sure that you've got at least half the people happy. If half the people hate what you're doing, you're probably doing it right. If only half the people hate what you're doing, you're probably doing it right. Always answer, right? Whatever your content is, make sure it answers the question. Otherwise, it's pointless. Sounds obvious, but I feel like I always got to put that out there. Create small chunks of content. Don't create one massive training course like 8 hours worth of video or record a single 3-hour video. Divide it up. It'll be easier for you to edit. It'll be easier for other people to consume. Plus, it will let you roll it out more constantly. Let's say I do have a 3-hour training. If I break that up into 15-minute or half-hour chunks, then maybe I don't have time to format and publish the entire 3 hours at once, but I can do the first half an hour, right? Get that out there. When I send out my weekly or monthly ping or daily ping, because you're doing that, you can tell people, here's the first half an hour. When you send out another ping, here's the next 2 half hours. You kind of get people into a rhythm. You keep publishing new stuff. You keep their attention, because this is like marketing, right? And having a cadence is very important. By doing it in small chunks, you don't have to do everything at once, and you don't do something where you create your training and then wait 2 months before you actually publish it. You can't repurpose everything. I mean, it's great for me to talk about all this stuff, but you're not going to do it with every single video. Instead, take a look at what people are most interested in, and I'll talk about analytics in a minute. Just repurpose the biggest stuff first, and then you can go backwards and start repurposing smaller things. Also, repurpose everything. And when I say everything, I don't mean that did not come out right. Don't just repurpose your biggest titles. Also, repurpose all the different types of content you create. As a consultant, an expert, or a trainer, people are going to email you questions. When you answer them, that's training content. Take those answers and think about whether you should just turn that into a document, or you should put it aside and maybe enhance it later, or whether it should be a future training. Never ignore the questions your audience is asking. That may be your best resource for creating really compelling training. So don't just repurpose organized training. Repurpose all those little questions and those little bits of micro training you do day to day. Analytics, people don't always pay attention to this, but of course in Google Docs, There's analytics. You can see how often a document is viewed. SharePoint has something similar. In email, if you don't mind if people within your organization don't mind, you can track opens, see how many people opened and clicked on the email, right? And that can help you figure out this is the most important stuff. Let's make sure we really polish it. Now, doing all this would actually require about 30 hours a week, which is insane. I don't do it. I never have, not even at my most obsessive, writing a blog post every day phase of my career would I have done that. And yeah, I always try to execute 100% of my recommendations, but that's not really possible. So set these priorities. First off, make sure your training is complete, right? Make sure that all the information that needs to be there is there, and it's going to help, and it's going to explain, it's going to give your audience the tools to do what they need to do. Make sure it's available all the time, right? Pick the most often consumed, most important stuff. Make sure people can consume it asynchronously. Organize it, put it into your library. Then worry about beautiful. And for beautiful, start with consumable. Start with easy to find, easy to consume. Then, if you want to, if you really have all the spare time in the world, go ahead and start creating the really gorgeous gorgeous stuff that people look at just because it's so amazing to look at. Finally, just bringing this right back around, treat your marketing, treat your training, I'm not going to edit. Treat your training as marketing, okay? Understand who you're talking to and how you're talking to them. You have an audience. A conversion means that they have taken your training to heart. Think about how often you convert an audience member to a particular conversion. Like how often do you get an audience member to make a purchase or do something else? Set the same expectation for yourself. Okay, don't come in with the expectation that everybody's going to immediately convert. They're not going to. Instead, you're going to kind of chip away at it. You're going to get a few people to convert, and then maybe they'll tell a few other people, or because your training is asynchronous, other people will come back. But always treat your training as marketing. If you treat it as a pitch, if you treat it as something where you are slowly and steadily converting an audience, your training will be far, far more effective. That's it. You can find the slides for this at the link here. You can always email me, Ian at ian@ianlurie.com, and you can also send me a note on Twitter. It's at Ian Lurie. I may or may not use the questions you send me for future training, but I would love to hear from you. I love to answer questions, so please reach out, and I will talk to you soon.